What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to more Black Desert. My name is John, and today we're going to be revisiting one of our old guides and looking at it to see what I can update. So one of the popular guides I made back in the day was the best places to grind for silver, XP, skill points, which is a little bit less relevant nowadays. But yeah, ever since the new region came out and they did some buffs and I guess nerfs for some classes, I think it is safe to say that I have a little bit of time invested in looking at various different spots, and I wanted to go over it once again. And the best way we're going to do it is go through all the zones and regions and just tell you what I think are good, bad, what may have changed since like last year when we made this video. And before we start, I just want to say that as of today, a lot of the BDO partners got the opportunity to get an affiliate code for ACoins and pearls. So if you are planning on buying pearls, basically buying the ACoins and pearls stuff, just use the code. Use the code Jonlaw. It's not case sensitive if you're on NA and EU and just thinking about buying it anyway. Help me out. Use my code, and I would really appreciate it. I get a small percentage of what people spend. So that goes for the game as well. So like, let's say you're buying the normal edition of the game, or what are those Conquerors editions, like the higher tiers up, I get a small portion of that. So if you're planning on picking up anything, I think that's a good time. You don't even have to use my code. You could use someone else's, your favorite content creator, but I would appreciate it if you did. And yeah, so if you're planning on getting anything, now is probably a good time, just because the Festa is going on and there's a lot of good stuff. We made a video on the best things to get for pearls, so I'll leave that in the description as well if you're interested. But anyway, back to the thing. So yeah, last time we looked at this was probably between 6 months to a year ago. And I would say that most of them are pretty accurate. So the game gives you a recommendation for AP and DP, and I would say they're all pretty accurate, and give or take some of the high-end spots where it's more about knowing the mechanics more than your gear. So let's start off with, if you are a beginner, and what would I recommend doing? So let's sort this by the lowest AP. So I'm going to assume that we're all going to be on the same page of, at the very minimum, you are at least near the end of seasons. That means like Tet to Pen, Tuvala gear, full armor, weapons, and accessories. That's going to be our minimum baseline. And if you're not there, just start questing. You get a lot of goodies and rewards over time. And then once you get to Tet, which actually really isn't really that hard at all, then we'll start this. So let's see, where would I start? So all of these are going down in AP order. All of these places, I don't really think they're relevant, because you guys can watch my playthrough of the seasons as well, and I could get to like 55, 56 without much gear at all, just from the stuff that they give you from doing the season pass. And I'd never even bought the extra Black Spirit pass to give you the second line of rewards. You can do fine just without it. So as a very minimum, so let's start with the Desert Naga Temple. So back in the day when I used to play, this was many years ago, places in the desert were pretty good. And over time, obviously new regions came out, it became less relevant. But if you are grinding on seasons and you're just trying to get to like 61, I would consider the desert places pretty decent to grind if you just don't want to get contested by other people or anything and you just want to play on your own time. No big deal. They do give some pretty good rewards as well. And things I would also recommend if you are still on season is try going for your infinite potions then before you go graduate, because it feels worse going for your infinite potions when you have like 280 AP or something, because you're just like, oh, I could grind somewhere else and make 1 billion silver an hour for some anything else, or I can grind for like 300 mil an hour going for infinite potion pieces. So I would always recommend just doing that as soon as possible. That way it just doesn't feel as bad. So anyway, generally the Valencia spots, they're not as good as they used to be, but they're most likely going to be empty. So if you just want to grind in peace, and the money is not that bad. Like, you could turn Yona fragments into accessories in Altanova in that house, and it's like the money does add up, believe it or not. So let's see, what do I think are relevant spots, and what are places that I would recommend going to? First of all, Ashura Ruins at the 140 AP zone. I would say this is a place you go if you want the infinite potion piece. This is the mana potion, the Katsvariak Venom or the Gland. This place, it was definitely my worst one in terms of going for the infinite piece, and I didn't really have fun, but it's a necessary thing you have to do if you want the infinite mana potion. So I would recommend doing this early instead of later, especially this one. But overall, I would say this spot's probably around like 200 mil an hour, assuming you are at the AP area. So if you're at 140, getting like 200 an hour, not bad. If you're at like 280 AP, it's not great. But if you're at 140, suddenly that's not as bad. Crescent Shrine, I just wouldn't go there anymore. Kadri is a good spot that you can go for the all evasion and all DR artifacts. Personally, I think there's a better one. We'll talk about that, but this one is a place where people used to go for the all DR and evasion ones. So I actually did so myself. The drop rate's kind of low, but it's one of those things where you can focus on something. But anyway, let's go down the list of everything else. So as we all know, in the Balenos territory, we have Sakraya, which, let me just show you on the map. Sakraya is over here, and like basically the way you get there is if you, the fastest way, let me show you, is if you're at Velia and you have a traveler's map, which you just buy off the market, no big deal, like 500k, you could send yourself to Ilia Island. And then from Ilia Island, you just follow the path and then go up the mountain a little bit. And then just walk over here, dive underwater, and then you could either escape, or you could just swim underwater, and it'll take you to the upper Sakraya, and then you could grind there. Otherwise, just ask someone with a compass to send you there, or compass you there, and you'll be good. So either way, let's talk about that for a second. So upper Sakraya, I think it's a pretty good spot. That place got buffed a little bit. So I think it's the easier spot of the underwater and upper one. So this place, definitely a good one. I do believe the Rich Merchant Ring piece drops from upper. So that's a end game item that basically allows people to get taxed less or get more out of sales on the market. So upper, definitely a good spot. Underwater it's a good spot to be if you want to grind, but it does take a little bit of extra effort in my eyes because, so Abyssal Essences, these are where a lot of the money comes from. And if you don't know what they do, they allow you to make the frenzy drafts. And if you know how to make them, it's really easy. It tells you how to make it, but getting some of the items is the hardest part. But if you get a lot of them and then you know how to craft it yourself, that's where a lot of the profit comes in. Aside from that, it's mostly how many Tungrad rings do you get an hour, how many red shards and everything. So overall, I do have a video of Sakraya as well. Actually, I'll leave a link in the description to all my grind spots I've done throughout 2023. And you guys can watch me do it and see what the rotation is like. And ultimately, Sakraya, I would recommend you be at least like 261 AP because that's the bracket. But, 260, 261 is fine. It doesn't matter. However, if you are if you are under 330, I would just watch out because the way that works in underwater is it's a high density grind spot. So that means you're pulling like max 12 targets or something. And then if one big one sees you and just knocks you down, you're going to get hit by a lot of them. So just make sure to know how to use your super armors and everything, And it's a little bit scary if your DP is lower, but like your AP should be fine. So just one of those don't get hit memes, but just that's the only thing you really need to worry about. The big crab looking thing that throws a rock at you. If you get CC'd, it could be bad. But otherwise, both upper and lower is better. Lower just requires a little bit more work after the grind to make the profit, but I do think both of them are very good. Let's see. Now we are in Serendia. Let's talk about these because these are more of a mid to end game area. So as you guys know, if you are grinding in here, you're here for one of a few reasons. One, you're getting the shards, these tearful night shards, lonely things, and whatever to put onto your accessories, and those give you extra stats. And I would recommend that if you are going for all three of them, here's what I did. Ore Camps for the red one. Ore Camps is just a very good spot in general, very high XP, a lot of silver an hour, and a lot of red shards. So Oryx is probably arguably the best spot in the Serendia Elvia for literally everything. I personally did Bloody Monastery for the yellow shards, and they're all used in the same way of different accessories. So like if you have to get like 100 of them in total or something. So either way, you're just going to grind in most of the spots. And so Bloody Monastery, I thought was a good one because it's more if you want silver an hour, but you get a little bit less of the drain shards versus some other place. But if you're grinding for silver, in my opinion, it's better because you get these items called the Crimson Bell, and then basically it lasts for 1 hour, and then it just spawns a wave of enemies for like 5 minutes, and you just get a lot of trash loot over time. And these moon split nails make the lunar necklace, which is the accuracy necklace, and yeah, it's a lot of money actually. So Bloody Monastery is a high money spot. Well, I guess it's more above average money, but you get a little bit less drain shards. I get between probably like 8 to 10 an hour, which you could, I guess, consider good or not. Swamp Fogans versus Nagas. These are blue and reds. I actually personally have done both of these. Well, I've done every grind spot here. But if you want the Fogans one, it is around here. This is where the Marnie Realm is, straight under Heidel. And it's just a big circle. The silver an hour there is not great, but it's one of the better ones for the blue shards. So you just kind of have to do it. Nagas is out in the field. I personally didn't like this one as much compared to like Brigadi Den for the yellow shards. These give less silver an hour, but they give you more drained yellow shards. Castle Ruin is a group spot, and ultimately I think this one kind of needs a buff. And it's like the hardest part in this game is finding a group to grind with, and we all know that. But realistically, if you're here for red shards, just go to Ore Camp. The AP requirement is just a little bit higher. Like, I know it says 280 versus 250, but I think realistically, like, it's more of a DP check than anything. Nowadays with crystals and everything, like, even if you're at like 261 AP, and if you have a lot of crystals that give straight AP, you'll be fine. But it's more like you kind of do need some DP here. Otherwise, if you get chunked, it kind of hurts. But yeah, all of these, this first three, not so great. And I guess I would just go bottom three for all the shards you need. Calpheon. This one is going to be a little bit different to talk about because there is Elvia Calpheon and normal Calpheon as of now. And the last video that I did, I don't think they had it. So let's just talk about the relevant ones. For Elvia, Quint Hill is very good. It's a very late game spot. It's hard to recommend doing it because it's kind of boring. So as you guys know, in BDO, a lot of the classes are very fast paced, right? And you're just going in circles grinding. And so you like the high kill speed, clear speed and everything. It's good. Quint Hill is like you're killing like 3 different enemies, and it's very slow. The money is good, but you're just like spending what 30 seconds per enemy, and if you like it, cool. It's also a very high-end spot where it's one of those really just don't get hit. Hex Sanctuary is a high, fast-paced spot. The silver is very good an hour here. Like, I guess it's one of the high-end spots where you can make like 1 to 2 bill an hour, but you kind of need to know what you're doing and know how to pull. These 3, I personally don't have too much experience with. I heard they buffed it and then they nerfed it again, and then I haven't grinded since there. So if you're within the spot for Elvia, Quint, Hex, and you could try Sonals, but I don't really know. But if you are not in the Elvia range of grinding, let's go back to where we are for regulars. Let's see. Star's End, one of the few places you can get distortion earrings now, considering the best in slot earrings other than Dabareka, which you don't even get in this area. You get in the new region anyway. So Star's End is one of those places where if you get a disto an hour, you're doing great. If you don't get a disto an hour, the trash loot, it just feels really bad. There's regular grind spots where you do circles, and then there's towers. Towers is kinda like worse than the circles, but you are pretty stationary. So chances are everyone knows people bot there. The developers know it too. Just keep that in mind in case you kind of do strange patterns. But anyway, Star's End, if you get an earring, you're good. If you don't get an earring, it feels bad. Paddock's Island is one of the spots. Let me show you because most people won't even know where it is. Paddock's Island is right here. This spot, not only is it 270, it's out in the middle of nowhere. Remember back 5 or 6 years ago, Pirate Island used to be one of the most contested grind spots. I remember this. People would PvP there all the time. War decks were everywhere. And then Paddock's Island, it kind of was bad. Right now, from my understanding and the few hours of grinding that I've done there, it's about like maybe 400 to 600 mil an hour. And the hardest or the most annoying part is getting there. Let's say you only want to grind 1 hour a day. Getting there and going back is probably a fraction of your time. So just keep that in mind. If you are within the 270 AP range, I would probably recommend grinding somewhere else. The reason why people are at Paddocks is because, 1, you are going for ethereal earrings, which are not that great. But 2, the rich merchant ring piece is very important, and that's why people are there. Otherwise, go somewhere else. I think those are the 2 notable spots in Calpheon minus the Elvias. Let's talk about Mediah. Kratuga is probably one of the best spots for both silver and artifacts. So there's always been a hot discussion on, is it better to grind specific spots for a specific artifact that you want, or grind Kratuga and get a lot of them an hour, but you have a chance of not getting the one you want? After doing probably about 30 to 40 hours at Kratuga, I have gotten everything I wanted. And so, for example, if I were to grind at any other spot that has, like, I don't know, 1 or 2, let's take this, for example. These are focused down into some things you want, but you only get, like, maybe 1 or 2, and you might not even get the right one. Whereas this one, you get, like, maybe 5 to 10 an hour, and then there's a higher chance. So I personally think grinding Kratuga is better because you just have a higher chance of getting the one you want. And even if you don't, everyone knows that you can use simple alchemy and then melt these down for one of those like snow globe looking things that give you a light stone. And those could be good. So I think overall, just in terms of monetary value, silver an hour, I think it's just better to grind Kratuga anyway. Plus, you get a chance of getting Tungrads and Latins and everything. Elcars aren't as much as they used to be. Remember when they were like 600 mil each? Yeah, me too. Good times. Now they're like 40 mil. So that's the thing. But other than that, Kartuga is not that bad. The silver is decent. It's a good spot for the AP level. Everything else is kind of irrelevant until they do some sort of buff in here. So I would kind of just ignore all of these spots, to be honest. I think the only thing that people would do if you are a new player, Soldier's Grave or Soldier's Cemetery is pretty decent for skill points as a newer player. Sawsons and Schultz used to be good back in the day, but I don't think they're really notable anymore. So just keep that in mind. So I think that's about it. I think Mediah is kind of we're waiting for the Elvia Mediah stuff, and then it might be decent. So Valencia is a spot where people go for rarer items like the Compass piece, which I'm going for now, the Archaeologist map, and various things. So as a beginner, I would probably... you could try Desert Naga Temple or Tidium Valley, which is Fogan's. Bastions are okay as well. These are all beginner spots that kind of fell off a little bit, but it's not like the worst things. Centaurs is probably the most notable area because this gives a lot of silver an hour. Some people are getting like 1 bill an hour at like 190 AP. So it's very easy. It's just like a big circle or oval, I guess. So this is probably the most contested spot for newer players, and it's a lot of the silver. You do have to use Agris, which is a thing, but other than that, we've all heard that Centaurs is probably one of the most contested spots. It says fewer but powerful monsters, but there's a lot of them, and you just get a lot of silver an hour. Other than that, the notable spots are Achman and Histria, obviously, are the Compass piece spots, which I have been at Histria for like 500 hours, and I still am looking for the Elton piece. But so far, in terms of our grind, we are currently at 9 pieces, and all of them are Vodkin. Feels bad, indeed. So yeah, Achman and Histria are for Compass. Pilaku, Sulfur Mine, I believe, are for the Archaeologist map. And so the silver an hour is not great, but you are going for the map pieces, and that's why you're there. But other than that, Centaurs is probably the most notable that most people will be going to for silver. Very good. Everything else is just you go there to go there. Kamasylvia. This is the spot where people get their infinite potions and or a lot of XP. So I think that actually all of these spots are good in their own way. Fattest is like, if you very specific, from like 56 to 58 leveling, this is a good spot, but then after that it just kind of falls off. Polly's Forest is one that people go to on seasons a lot, and I personally do this as well. Getting from like 56 to 60 is very easy, and you get a lot of skill points. So if you're just trying to play a new class, get skill points real quickly, do like an hour or two at Polly's and you're good to go. Very contested, very good spot, especially for beginners. And if you need truffle mushrooms, which endgame players will always need truffle mushrooms if you do elixir rotations and everything. Talk about that in another video. But Polly's very good. Navern Step. I think everyone just hates this spot. It's not really bad. It's just, this is one of the pieces where you get the first of the infinite potion pieces for your MP one. And admittedly, they made all the infinite potions easier, and in the future they're going to make infinite potions sellable in the market. But if you're going for this yourself, it's not the most fun thing you've ever done. But yeah, it's one of those things you have to do if you want it. So Miramok Ruins. This is one of those places where it's a lot of XP. The silver is a little bit on the mid to lower side, but the XP is very high. So that's why you see people who are like, oh, I got from level 1 to 61 in 3 hours on a new season character. Yeah, they're getting leeched there. That's pretty much there or Gyphon. So Miramok, just a lot of XP. That's what you should expect out of it. Forest Renaros is another infinite potion piece spot. I do believe that they buffed it to the point where it's pretty decent grinding. Maybe around like 300 to 400 mil an hour. And the reason why you're here is for the infinite health potion, This is one of the 3 pieces. Plus, you get a lot of Rumbling Earth Shards, Krogdalos, and Spectre's Energies. These are all very wanted items, at least on the NA market right now. Just because they announced, maybe EU as well, just because during the Festa, they basically gave everyone a tier 9, and people are just trying to get horse stuff done. So I do believe this is a pretty decent spot as well. Monsham Forest. This one is for the MP potion. I do believe the silver an hour is pretty decent. XP is kind of okay, but Narc earrings are definitely one that are pretty contested. I think it is an endgame accessory that people use, but mostly you're here for the infinite potion piece, which is the crimson tier. And this is one of the few that I actually have not gotten a straight drop. I had to go through 100 pity pieces twice to get it. And then other than that, like Capris and everything, pretty good. So silver an hour is good, but you're here for the potion piece and the accessories. So I think it's worth it. Upper Gyfin. This is a group spot, and it is very good. A lot of people grind there regularly, but especially when the event is going on where you can get like Histria pieces at Upper Gyfin. So it's actually been buffed, nerfed, and buffed multiple times throughout the few years. And as of right now, of like recording this video, I do believe it's a very good spot. So I think the hardest part is getting a group of 5 to go grind. But aside from that, I think it's very good. So Ash Forest. Oh boy, do I have a lot to say about this grind spot. This is an endgame grind spot. The silver is trash. The XP is trash. The drop rates are trash. The reason why you're here is going for a Deboreka necklace, which is a very, like, the top of the line endgame best in slot accessory, along with the leaves for the La Orzeka outfit. So in my experience, I get one Deboreka every like 10 to 15 hours. So I have probably around like 300 hours here total throughout the years. And you guys can watch my enhancing videos of me blowing up Deboreka's and stuff. And it doesn't feel great. But either way, I think it's getting buffed in the near future for endgame players. But other than that, it's not. You're there for one reason and one reason only. If you're not here for Deboreka, just go somewhere else. Underground Gyfin, arguably one of the best endgame XP grind spots an hour. The silver is pretty decent for the amount of gear you require, but overall, I think that it's decent money. But at like level 65 for me with full buffs going, I get between 1.2% an hour, which is pretty good for level 65. But yeah, it requires a lot of gear, and people also leech kind of like Miramok runes there to get to 61 or something really quickly. And so actually I probably have a video of that really recently, so if you want to check that out on the channel, feel free to do so. It's a pretty interesting rotation where you have to know your colors and go from point A to B, but very good XP, decent silver. Drieghan, oh boy, these spots are all pieces for your infinite potion, and if you do it during the day, your goal is to get these. The best place to get the straight up panacea thing is at night, because you go to a statue, use energy, and basically your the drop rate is higher at nighttime by doing the statues or whatever it's called, pillars. And but if you want to grind during the day, it's fine too. I got my piece during the day, no big deal. Blood Wolf kind of sucks, but if the Cagdon Axe right now are very good because they came out with new crystals from the Land of the Morning Light. And I think I have probably about 150 hours here total over 2 years. And I've gotten one ancient drop, and then for my second piece, I went through 100 full pity pieces. So I have a lot of time here. And yeah, overall, I think getting to Cagdon Axe now is like 300 mil. So I think it's decent if you get one. But other than that, like, you're mostly grinding here for the potion piece. And I think obviously it's good now, but who knows what it'll be like in about a year from now. And we talked about Tashira earlier. Odalita, Thornwood Forest it's pretty decent. I have a video of that as well. I think the reason why people grind here are for the Akrod crystals. Obviously the lung for the Orzeka thing, same as Ash Forest. This place kind of sucks if you're going for Orzeka, the helmet exclusively, but you do get a lot of Spectre's energies here, and that's used to make Black Star weapons and armors. So Ominous rings are best in slot accuracy rings, so this is also a reason. So I think it's overall a very decent spot. It's just if you're going for the leaves, I would go to Ash Forest instead. Tunkata is Turos, as a lot of people know. The reason why you're here is for the Flame of Despair and or Turo belts. This makes the Fallen God armor, and Turo belts are considered one of the best in slots for belts. So yeah, 2-person spot, very good. Silver an hour is kind of trash, but you're not there for that. You're there for the items. Olin's Valley, one of the harder spots in the game because it is more mechanically intense than it is gear check. Rich Merchant ring piece, obviously Orzeka, and you just get a lot of silver. So I believe it's roughly about $1 bill an hour here, but you do have to find a group of 3, which takes time. And even if you have or meet their gear requirements, the spot is like, if you get hit by a mechanic, you're getting chunked, or you might just get one-shotted. So you gotta, it's more of a mechanics check. Don't get hit more than anything, but your D or AP is more important than DP. Obviously, more is better, but still. Crypt of Resting Thoughts is arguably the hardest spot in the game right now. You get a Rich Merchant piece here, and of course the Deboreka belt, which is the best in slot item as well. Abyssal Gaze turns into the Deboreka belt, and you get both Orzeka things as well. So most people don't grind here for fun. The silver an hour is not that great. You're here for the items. Last 4 places I want to talk about are Arethia's Limbo, which is something that I thought was such a cool idea, but then it's just the entry takes so much effort to get in because you need a witch's token, and then it's like a puzzle. It's really easy, but I have videos if you just want to watch it. But just getting access to it is the difficult part. You have to grind other spots and get a witch's token that we'll talk about. Winter Tree Fossil still sucks in 2023. We have a video. Once again, pretty bad. Murrowwax Labyrinth is a instanced grind spot. And basically, you go into a burrow or labyrinth, right? And then you can have like 5 other players with you, or 4 plus you. And all of you are in a cave with a separate instance, so that means like you're not getting PvP in there. And so basically you fight waves of enemies for about 10 minutes, and then everyone rotates into a different room. Just like, let's say there's 5 doors, everyone goes in a clockwise direction. It's not really like that, but just picture that. And yeah, so I thought it was a cool concept of a grind spot. It's just, it's not that good, but maybe it'll make more in the future. It's a cool idea. Silver an hour, not so great, but fighting the boss at the end, I've seen people get flame and ember drops. I think they buffed it recently. That's good. So these are the witches tokens in Jade Starlight Forest. This is the spot you want to be at if you are going for your Labreska helmet. I do believe the silver an hour is pretty decent. But this is probably one of the best spots you could be in the entire region, because you are there for the flame, which goes for the Labreska helmet and or silver and everything. So for all of those, this is the place to be. And yeah, I think that's it. So hopefully I covered everything. If I didn't, then we'll probably make a part 2 just for like XP and everything. But this one is more about the silver an hour. And I think I covered all the relevant changes and all the buffs and nerfs in the past like year. So hopefully that helped you. If it didn't, just feel free to ask in the comments, join the Discord, leave a comment. I'm happy to help you guys out. And so, yeah, I think that's it. So if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. I would love to see you come back. Thanks so much for watching. And once again, if you haven't already, I have the code if you're thinking about buying pearls or ACoins or just buying the game in general. Use my code. I'd really appreciate it. You guys are awesome, and I will see you guys later.